Welcome back. I'm going to look through a couple of games sent in by a subscriber and see if I can learn something, and maybe, just maybe, I can offer some advice or instruction. Hopefully all of us will get something out of this. Okay, this game was sent in by Peter Sunday, known as OnlyMe99 on chess.com. And here, Peter's playing with the black pieces. Opponent opens with d4, responds with d5, which is fine. This right here automatically is a problem for me because I open with d4 a lot, and I know that very soon I'm going to want the c pawn here or here, and the knight prevents that. I know that it's a legitimate opening to put the knight on c3. I know that that's legitimate. It's also just regular opening principles. You want to get out your knights and your bishops, take control of center squares. It's just that I've found, at least for me, in so many d-pawn openings, you're going to want the c-pawn to come one of these squares at some point, and so you don't want this knight here. Very often, I will delay the development of that knight until I can get it here. Sometimes I bring the bishop out first, sometimes the bishop stays there for a little while, but this knight doesn't go here until after the c-pawn has been advanced. And that's one reason I think that the evaluation here is right at 0, according to Stockfish. Peter plays knight to f6, which is perfectly fine. It adds an extra degree of defense for this, and preparing to castle, looks like. Then this probably isn't great because now your dark squared bishop is stuck in there. Since you didn't play the queen's gambit by pushing the c-pawn, and you can't because you put your knight there, then you probably want to do something like get this bishop out, but now he's blocked that in. Okay, so Peter gets this bishop out, which I think is fine in this position. I'm not 100% certain. That's the difference between me and a grandmaster looking at your games. They would know exactly what opening this is. Here, I just have to read on the screen, which isn't visible to you, but it says this is the queen's pawn opening Chigorin variation. Okay, another knight out for the opponent, which is also probably fine. That's perfect. Prepares to get this bishop out to any number of squares, and then castle. The opponent puts the queen on e2. You probably saw the evaluation bar on the left side of the screen move just a little bit there. I don't know what's really bad about that. I just know that it's not good. It blocks in your light squared bishop, for one thing. So that would have been the next most, instead of moving the queen there, I think I would have put this bishop here, maybe, directly threatening that bishop. Or just put the bishop here and then castle. But putting your queen here to block in your bishop seems like a mistake. Peter gets out the dark squared bishop. I don't know why the evaluation bar just moved. I'm not that much of an expert in chess, but I do know that this was clearly his plan, was to move this bishop out someplace and then castle. So that makes perfect sense. It's in a relatively safe spot, and it is pinning this knight to the king. This would be a great time, I think, for the opponent to not have played this queen here, so they could move their bishop out and castle out of this pin. But this is where they stand, and what they play here is e4, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I know why the evaluation bar jumped that time, because Peter has 3 different pieces pointing at the e4 square, whereas the opponent just has the 2 pieces guarding the e4 square, and that one can't move right now. So that seems like a huge mistake. I would honestly take it with my bishop. Let's see, is that what Peter did? No, Peter took with his pawn. That's probably fine too. It shows that he still has an advantage. Let's see what the opponent does here, because again, can't move that, and definitely don't want to take with this. And this pawn is threatening that knight. So what does the opponent do? Puts the knight in the middle. That seems like a mistake to me, but I'm not sure why. I'm not sure exactly why that seems like a mistake to me. And I don't know what I would be tempted to do in this situation. I think I would probably castle here, to be honest. But Peter took the knight there, which lost some of his advantage. Obviously, we're going to take back with the B pawn, I think. Yes, okay. So now, okay, that makes sense. This knight has stuck itself there in the middle, and it can't go back to here because of the pawn. So it needs to be traded off, I guess. The opponent puts the bishop out there. I'm not sure. Okay. That turned out to be a mistake. Okay. I know why it's a mistake. Because normally, if this bishop wasn't here, and you took that knight, when they took with the pawn, then you would bring your knight back here and be able to take the pawn with it. But you can't move this knight right now. I mean, you can, but you probably don't want to. And so now, the opponent's going to take this knight, and the pawn's going to be pointed at this knight, and you can't move it because the queen's back here. Okay, so that was a mistake to do in that situation with this knight being pinned. Okay, so what did the opponent do? Did they take it? They did. Now where do you go with that knight? Well, you've got to give that knight up, don't you? And so that's what Peter does, gives that knight up. But okay, Stockfish wants to play h6 here, and I get that because that attempts to force the taking here with the bishop rather than the pawn. Because the opponent, person playing with white, wants to take with the pawn right here and then have a discovered attack later at some point by moving that pawn. But if you do this, it kind of forces the issue, maybe. But instead, Peter challenges the queen. That looks like a pretty simple fix right here. Did the opponent play that? No, the opponent moved the queen out of the way. Lost all their advantage. So it's Peter's game here. Now, you know you're gonna lose this knight anyway. Just put it right here. Challenge the queen. They'll probably take yours. Then you take theirs. If they take your knight back, you take their bishop back. And you're good. Is that what Peter did? No. Peter is now down plus white is up plus 5.7, plus 5, almost plus 6. Well, that's because you're going to lose your knight right here. Okay. But yeah, going back, this is something Peter can learn from here, what I just said, that you know you're going to lose this knight anyway. So why not turn it into a queen trade by moving it out here? If you move this knight right now, they might not take your queen. They don't have to. They might move their queen if they're really attached to their queen. And some people are. Some people won't do a queen trade unless there's no other choice. So if you move this knight now, if they take your queen, that's fine because you get to take their queen, as I just said on the previous turn. So this is definitely a mistake here. Moving your queen out of the way allows them to take that knight, and that's what the opponent found. Both players are playing very fast at this point. Okay. Now here Peter does play the next move, which is to castle. Because this pawn is about to just start rampaging through here, and you want to get your king out of the way. And also, because he did move the queen, and now he's put the rook behind it, the opponent has several good moves here, but they all have to be centered around this main idea that all these pieces are pointed right down there at D1. And D1 is only defended by that rook in the corner over here and the king. So since Peter has done this, and again, this bishop's been sitting here for a while because the opponent never played F3, white has to just make sure that they do something about that. Now, there's several things that they can do about that. One thing they can do is play F3 now, which they didn't do earlier. And of course, we'll take it, but then the bishop isn't pointed there anymore. And so now there would only be two pieces pointed at D1, and that's fine because white has two defenders on D1. Another thing white could have done here is played bishop to E2, which defends that. and blocks the bishop from it. So not only would that mean that white would have 3 defenders on that square, but it would be blocking the bishop from seeing that square. So that's another thing. I'm not sure. Oh, d4. Queen to d4 also is something that I saw when I first looked at this game, because now none of these pieces see back there. But again, a lot of people don't want to trade queens. And a lot of people who are focused on what's happening down here don't even see what's happening down there because they're just looking at this one spot. And I've been guilty of that. You probably have too. The person playing with the white pieces thinks, hey, you know what? I'm going to get this pawn, and then my pawn is going to be threatening this rook, and my bishop's going to be threatening that rook. And that's what they did. And it's mate. And Peter, to his credit, found it. Good job, Peter, because it doesn't matter that they take your queen because you have checkmate on d1 because you had so many attackers on that square. And of course, this bishop cuts off the escape square of the king and it protects the rook. So good job, Peter. I understood this one perfectly. Hopefully the situation with the knight being pinned and their queen being in danger, you saw that how you could have saved your knight at that point. It would have ended up with an even trade instead of being down material. Here you won because your opponent simply did not see that. And that happens at my level. I've gotten mate in one because the opponent just didn't see it was about to happen. And I've been checkmated fairly recently because I didn't see it was about to happen. Let's take a look at the other game. Okay, that is the same game. I don't know what happened. This is the game we want to look at. Okay. Hopefully this isn't going on too long, but I'm trying to figure out what happened. Okay, once again, Peter is playing with the black pieces. This time the opponent opens with e4, so we get a Ruy Lopez? Yes, Ruy Lopez. Okay, because I don't ever respond to e4 with e5, I just recognize this as the Ruy Lopez, but I have no idea what's supposed to happen next. I have seen in Gotham chess recaps and things like that that black will play a6 here fairly often, and or just ignore that. I think probably knight to f6 is fine. Let's see what does Peter play? The other knight to e7. Okay. I don't know if that's good or not. The evaluation bar is staying between -1 and +1. And at our level, that's equal most of the time. Okay. And I think the problem with this, at least for me, is that this bishop is now stuck. So now in order to get this bishop out, you're going to have to move this pawn. That's an extra move in order to castle. Now, again, I'm not familiar with these positions, so I don't know which is best. I just know for me, since this square was safe, that's where I would have put my knight. That there was nothing coming for it there. And then you could have moved this bishop somewhere and castled in less moves, or fewer moves, I should say. Okay, the opponent here plays knight to c3. Again, don't know if that's bad, but I know like all these knight getting out moves exercises some control over center squares. If I'm this bishop here, this is one thing about the Ruy Lopez. If black never plays a6, then what's this bishop doing? Is it here like guarding this horse? Because the horse can move. It's not pinned because we haven't moved the d pawn yet. So this is always weird to me that it's just sitting here. I guess just in case you want to move the d pawn, but you don't have. I mean, you can move the knight right now. So I don't really understand this, but I know grandmasters play it all the time, so there must be something to it. Okay, and now Peter has to do the pawn move to g6 that I just mentioned because he's blocked the path of his bishop. So now the bishop has to go this way in order to castle. Okay, what does white play? White plays d3. That seems reasonable. Well, we've moved this pawn, so playing bishop to g7 makes sense. Now, white should probably... What should white do? I have no idea. If I was white, I would probably castle here, but I have no idea. In this case, white plays bishop to g5. Well, Stockfish didn't like that, but I kind of see the point. Even though your other knight isn't pinned, this one now is. So, but this one is a soft pin. This one's not pinned at all because we haven't moved the d pawn yet. Okay, so what does Peter play here? Does Peter castle? Well, Stockfish is not suggesting that. Stockfish is suggesting one of these two moves, which I see a lot in my evaluations of games when I'm going back through my games. Anytime there's a bishop on those two squares, g4 or b4, if I'm playing with the black pieces, or I guess it would be g5 and b5 if I'm playing with the white pieces. When the enemy bishop is there, Stockfish almost always, not always, but almost always recommends one of these pawn moves just to tell the bishop, like, you came here for something. Are you going to do it or not? And that's what I think. That's one reason I've seen this a6 a lot in these Ruy Lopez positions when I'm looking at other people's games, is just because this bishop is kind of silly here. Like I mentioned earlier, what's it doing? So ask it. Oh, are you here to take the knight? If not, like, go on about your business. This is my area. This is my space. And not only does it push the bishop back or force the bishop to trade here, but it prepares other things later, like playing b5 or being able to get this bishop out at some point. But right now Stockfish is suggesting these two moves, which I read in an old book, an old chess book from like the 60s or 70s or something, that said, it says that's the mark of an amateur. But that was before they had Stockfish. Stockfish is no amateur. That's for sure. And that's what it says. Castles. Perfectly reasonable. Now you can move your d-pawn, and that knight won't be pinned anymore because there's nothing back there to pin it to. Okay. What does white play? Queen to d2. Probably preparing to slide this bishop down here and force a little trade. Okay. Remember when I said that now that there's nothing to pin this knight to, it's okay to move the d-pawn? That's actually what Stockfish is suggesting now, d6. But Peter plays a6, which is perfectly reasonable with that bishop continuing to sit there. It moves back one square. I would probably immediately follow this with b5, honestly, if it were me. Just because that's a good thing, that's a good reason to have moved the a-pawn is to prepare b5. But let's see. I know you can't see the engine, but Stockfish is saying your best move right here is king to h8. Well, I wouldn't see that, that's for sure. Okay. Knight into the middle. Big mistake. You saw the bar drop. I haven't looked at Stockfish. I'm trying to figure out why that is a big mistake. It can't be because of this, can it? Because you would just take back, and that pawn would be protected by your bishop from behind. Well, that's what... Okay. That's what Stockfish says to do. But I don't know why that's a big mistake. Okay? So that's what the opponent does. And you take it, I assume? Yes? Okay. Now, white needs to move this knight because the pawn is hitting it. So that's why I didn't understand why it's a big mistake, because you're forcing the issue. You're taking the initiative, which is often very, at my level and probably at Peter's level, is slightly below mine. That is, I mean, that's half the game sometimes, is being the one who's forcing the issue every time. So, I mean, we're just attacking this knight. It has to go somewhere. Stockfish wants it to go in here, but the opponent moved it back there. And suddenly there's no big advantage for white anymore. There was a huge difference for putting it in here on d5. Okay, I see it. Because you've been pointing at this with your bishop the whole time. If you have that knight in there, you're going to win that knight. Probably. Okay, well that makes sense. But the opponent didn't see that they could put extra pressure on this. Whoever said it, put pressure on the pinned piece. PP on the PP. It's funny so you can remember it. That's what the opponent should have remembered, is put pressure on the pinned piece. Okay, so now what does Peter do? That seems like it doesn't make sense now because the queen's here. I think you just take it, right? Yeah, I think white can just take that pawn now, because if you take back, then suddenly there's a queen in here and the king is a little bit in the wind. Oh, the opponent did not notice that and ran away. Okay. Well, this is a blitz game, 3-minute blitz game, but neither player has used very much time yet. That's definitely a mistake. Okay. At my level, you can tell that's a mistake. And maybe the opponent realized it as soon as they moved in. And, oh, wait, I could have taken the pawn. Also, some people don't ever like trading. But what you have to consider here, one thing I've learned about trades, there's good trades and there's bad trades. In this case, trading this bishop for this bishop, from White's perspective, is good because you also get the pawn. That just makes sense. It's simple math. It's not just a bishop for bishop trade. It's winning a pawn, and then each player takes a bishop off the board. And then suddenly, again, White has a queen in here, and Black's missing a pawn. But White didn't see that. Moved back. Now it probably makes sense to play here. I don't know. It is that is not what Stockfish is suggesting. Stockfish wants d5. Okay. Not sure about that. But g5 can't be horrible, right? It's not that bad. That's what Peter played, which now this doesn't work like it did a second ago. Now if you take that, you'd lose a bishop for 2 pawns. So I assume you have to drop back this way. Is that... No. Okay. Well, that's just a blunder, losing a piece. So obviously you take that. Okay, Peter. You seem like a good person, and you seem like you're getting better at chess, but you've been chasing this bishop. You chased it with pure bravado here, which they could have just taken it. That was a free pawn for them. They didn't. They went back, and then you chased them again, and now you went here, and it's like, oh, I won the bishop, but you didn't take it. Why not? Not sure. I have no idea. And that would have opened up this path too. Keep that in mind for the future. Maybe you were playing too quickly, but okay, but this was the move that Stockfish wanted on the previous turn, so it can't be that bad. Now, what did the opponent do? I think they're supposed to take it. They went back. So now you're going to take the dark squared bishop, right? No. Okay. Okay. You got to take the free bishop. That would have... I'm positive that would have been better. But Stockfish didn't hate this. And it might be because you've got the bishop anyway. And if that's what you were thinking, you know, good thinking, that bishop still can't run away because, well, not there because of the knight. But yeah, you've still got that bishop either way. So that's fine. You picked up an extra pawn. They can take either one of these now, but I don't know which one would be best for them. They chose that one. Okay. Now this seems like a great time to take the bishop, which would open up this as well. Did you do it now? Yes, you did. Good job. All right. And now the pawn and the queen are threatening their queen. I assume they're going to take the pawn. Yes. Okay. I'm not sure what's going to come next. c5. Okay. I think I would have taken that. Let me back up and see what Stockfish suggested. It does not suggest taking that. Okay, so I would have been wrong here too. It also likes a5. Knight to c6. Not entirely sure about either one of those. Or knight to g6. That's what Stockfish wants. But I think I do understand c5. One problem with that is that it's completely undefended. But one good thing about it is it does open up this diagonal for your queen. So that's... there's definitely a bonus there. It just looks like you're giving a pawn. Stockfish says they should take it, but did they? They did not. So now... do we just take that? We do. Okay. Good job, Peter. And now... okay. Black has a significant advantage now, even though if we saw several moves back, Peter wasn't doing so hot, but the opponent reacted poorly, and it looked like Peter just kept charging through there, even when he didn't take the bishop. He took the initiative, which makes a huge difference. Okay. Give me a second. That looks... Okay, I see it. Good job. See, Peter had to have seen this. I didn't see it. If you've watched my videos for very long, you know that I miss these somehow a lot. So it took me a second. When he moved it there, I was speechless for just a moment because I thought, you're just giving up your knight. But no, he's attacking the rook. This is a discovered attack on the rook. Does the opponent see it? Well, Stockfish says this is actually the best move, just to take the knight. Well, because you're attacking the rook two different ways. Both of these pieces are attacking the rook. So it makes... But still, doesn't it make sense then to just... Oh, you're attacking the queen too. Okay. Okay. See, I wouldn't have seen that. Good job, Peter, once again. They did take it, which was their best move. And now you take the rook, I assume. Yes. Okay. Don't know what I would play if I was white here. If they... I can't remember. Do they still have castling rights? I think I might just castle here. If I was playing with white... They did not castle. They just moved the pawn up. Well, now you can check and win this rook. Is that what happened? That is what happened. All right. Good job, Peter. I don't know if that was the best move or not. I didn't look. That's just what I would have done. But you're now at minus 15. So surely you should be able to wrap this up. One problem here is that your rooks cannot see each other. So are you going to move this light squared bishop anytime soon? Let us see. Well, we got to take care of that first. Okay. Okay. You don't have to worry about that if you can check. That makes sense. Move out of check. Well, now you can take the pawn with check. All right. Well, because the king couldn't go back because of this queen back here, cutting off the entire back rank. Okay, so you're in charge now. You just have to be careful to not blunder, and you shouldn't have any trouble winning this game. Now, bring out the light squared bishop, which I just said earlier you needed to get out. Yes, good job. All right. Now, I think if I'm white, I just take this pawn. They did, okay. Perfectly reasonable. And now, what is best? Give me a second. Give me a second. I don't know. I mean, you have any number of checks. Either one of the rooks can come here and check, but of course then they would be able to take this pawn. Interestingly, Stockfish says here, queen to h1. Because of all your pieces, this is the most vulnerable right now. And Stockfish says, just go protect it. And then you're threatening this. Very interesting. Well, let's see. What did Peter find? Peter found the next best move. Not bad. And if I am playing with the white pieces here, I think I would probably resign. But if I didn't resign, I think I would probably just try to blunt this attack a little bit. Or look for a way to check. But there's no way to check right now. What did white do? Okay. They didn't have much that they could do. But that doesn't lead to any checks, does it? Because our king, of course, guards these squares. Our pawn and bishop and other bishop guard all these squares. So there's no getting in here. The queen can't go here to check. So that was just a desperado move, I guess, on the opponent's part. All right. Now, let's see. I think this might be a viable check here with the bishop because, yes, the knight can take it, but then you come in with your queen. I think, let's see, is that... All right. Well, Peter, me, and Stockfish agreed that was the best move. And did they take that b-pawn? No, they took that. And then that. And then, oh, I thought they were going to take the b-pawn. Oh, Stockfish actually says that's better. Okay. Well, I mean, they don't have much here, right? Okay. They go there, and now... I mean, we're getting pretty close, aren't we? That's got to be best. That only leaves one move. And then there would be mate. let's see, if you checked here, the king would have to go here. Then you would check down here. And would that not be mate? Oh, the queen would have to block. Look at that. That would be the only legal move at that point. Okay, well, that's what you got to do, Peter. What did you do? Ooh, that's the, see the difference. That's not bad. And obviously you're moving very quickly. The problem here is that the rook can't guard other squares. The reason this is better, for future reference, is that the queen cuts off the diagonal as well as the horizontal, and as well as the diagonal. Whereas now the king only has one legal move where you can follow with the check. They have to block with the queen, and then you have mate. The difference to playing the rook move is that you didn't cut off this square. Now the queen is still cutting off these, so that's not bad, but it definitely allows the king to come here and back toward this vulnerable pawn. So it has to go there, only legal move. But now you can move the rook anywhere, and it's check from 2 pieces. But again, they can take the pawn. Did they? They went back to where they were. Okay. Now, good question. Honestly, I don't know if Stockfish thinks it's better or not, but here I think, wouldn't it have been better to go this way? Then when they take your pawn, you can kind of come in like this, and that would have been mate. I don't know. But anyway, did this. They went that way. This time you checked with your queen, which is just fine. It leaves them only one legal move, which is what they played. You took their bishop with check, opening up this. Okay. So they took that. This is your best move right here. B5. Because that only allows this. And then that's mate. Yeah, I'm pretty sure B5 is better here because, again, one legal move and then mate right there. But that's okay too. That's probably what I would have done in the same situation. You had time. And, oh, nice. Not worrying about the threat on your queen because you can check. Okay, there you go. That's mate. Good job. All right, so I think hopefully I helped. I had a couple of spots where I'm pretty sure I spotted something better, and hopefully that will help. Definitely take a couple of extra seconds. Even in Blitz, you can take a couple of extra seconds to look, like when you move that pawn up to move their bishop away. You got lucky that they moved their bishop away instead of just taking. So you could have counted attackers on that square. But other than that, you did very good. You spotted some interesting tactics and got lucky when your opponent missed them. Thanks for sending in the games. And thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.